Okay, Boker Tov. Today's daf is daf Kuf Tes in Yevmot, as we learn for Fur Shlema for Elazar ben Ruma and Yosef Ezriel ben Chaya Michal. From the Mishnah, the last line on Kuf Chesem and Beis, the Mishnah. Amagash sister bechzira muteris liyavam. Very simple thing here. When you're married, a person's married. Let's say again, Reuben is married to Leah. Reuben's married to Leah, and he divorces her. So, of course, his brothers can't marry Leah anymore because that's called Grusha Sachav, meaning it's Eisha Sachav Shlob Makom Mitzvah, right? You can never marry your brother's wife. If it's your brother from the mother, never, never, never. And if it's your brother from the father, you can only marry her if he dies without children. But let's say Reuben first divorced Leah, then he took her back. He wasn't a Kohen. He married her again. And now he dies with no children. Is there Yibam now? On the one hand, he's Grusha Sachav because as far as Shimon's concerned, Reuben divorced his wife. But Reuben took her back, and then he died with no children. So the Mishnah says, and he took her back. Reuben took her back. Then when he dies with no children, Shimon could marry her. In fact, it's a mitzvah. Shimon should marry her. Rabbi Elazar says, this is Rabbi Elazar Stam, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamu in the Mishnah. Rabbi Elazar says he shouldn't marry her. Shouldn't make Yibam. As we'll see in the Gemara, he says he just do chalitza. Why? We'll see why. Because he's not sure. He's a suffix, he's a gzeir or whatever. But basically, there's Yibam. What's the point here? The point is that Yibam, we had this discussion once before, is Misa Nofelis or is the first Kedushin, is the first Nesuin, does she fall from the first marriage? In other words, Reuben was married to Leah twice. The first time he divorced her, the second time he died. So when she falls Yibam to Shimon, is it because through the death of Reuven, which is, yes, the way we assume it's because of the death of Reuven, and when he died, he was married to her and no children, or is it his original marriage to her? His original marriage ended up in a divorce. The first marriage ended in divorce, and then you don't marry your brother's divorce. So you don't even marry your chalutza stuff, even though you're never married to. You don't marry because chalutza is also because of exera like grusha. But grusha's achiv, you're not allowed to marry your brother's divorced wife. What does it really mean? You can't marry your brother's wife unless it was the case of Yibam. And if it was divorce, it wasn't the case of Yibam. So over here, where Reuben married her, divorced her, and then remarried her, and then he died with no children, there is a case of Yibam according to the Tanakh. Blesser says, we'll see, to chalitza. That's not a regular wife, where Leah was a regular wife. Let's say Leah was an 8-year-old girl who was married off by her father. And married off by her father originally, or the father was out of the picture, and now her brother or mother married her off, and it's only Kedushin Rabbanan, but he divorced her, and he took her back. He divorced the 8-year-old girl, and then he took her back. The same thing applies. Muteris liyavam. She's allowed to have Yibam. Muteris liyavam merely means that it's mitzvah. You should make Yibam. In the first case, we said muteris liyavam. Muteris liyavam means she's mutter. You form the mitzvah of Yibam. In the second case also, even though it was a marriage drab, the first marriage was Reuben married her as an 8-year-old drabanan. The mother married her off, and he divorced her, and then he took her back. The same thing applies. If he dies now, Shimon can make Yibam. For Blazer also, again, Rabbi says you only do chalitza. What about this case? This last case, listen to this. Let's say this 8-year-old girl, Reuben was married to an 8-year-old girl, but she got married to him through her father. Her father married her off to this guy, Reuben, and therefore it's a Kedushin min Torah, because a father can marry off the door until she's 12 years old. He has rishus to marry her off. And then she got divorced. Let's say he gave the father the divorce on her behalf. Technically, if you hold that min Torah, you can give Gerish and Bal Karchach as long as she understands to hold on to the get, even if the father was out of the picture. But let's assume the father was there. He had married her off when she was 6, and now he accepted her getting when she was 8. Now she is really divorced min Torah. Now she's a Yisoma Chayav because the father no longer has permission to marry her off. And now he took her back. Now, what kind of a marriage is that? It's only Kedushin Rabbanan because the father's out of the picture. The first time the father married her off, there was a Kedushin, it was a marriage min Torah, and the divorce was min Torah. She's divorced because it was a proper marriage and a proper divorce. Now, when he took her back, it's only Kedushin Rabbanan. You can't make Yibam if he dies now. Why? Because as far as Shimon's concerned, this woman is Grusha Sachav. She was divorced by his brother Reuben. He divorced her. A divorce min Torah because it was a marriage min Torah and a divorce min Torah. And now the Kedushin Rabbanan is not really married min Torah. Min Torah, they're not married. this whole business that we said that a Yisoma, an 8 or 9-year-old girl, the mother, brother can have to keep her off the streets. The rabbi said, okay, fine, protect her. It's not really a marriage, so she's bat mitzvah. So he's really divorced min Torah, and she's not really married. So therefore, there's no yibum in that case. Everybody says asur liyabam. Even the Tanakhama says you can't make yibum there. Amar Aifa. What's the reason for Rabbi Elazar? Rabbi Elazar, in the first two cases, said that you don't make yibum, right? If the Reuven was married to Leah in a regular marriage, divorced her, took her back, and then died with no children, you don't make yibum. Why? Amar Aifa, my time Rabbi Elazar. Because there was a time when she was also, for example, when Reuven first divorced her. At that point, she couldn't marry. She couldn't marry Shimon, right? Even though she was available to marry Shimon because Grusha Zachem. Once there was a time of Isser for 1 minute, therefore she's also forever. In other words, she's like Eshach Shalom Makom Mitzvah. Rabbanan said to Aif, if that's Rabbi Elazar's reasoning, she should need chalitza. Rabbi Elazar on our mission said the top words on this page, Rabbi Elazar Oser, no yibum in that case. Even forget about the Ketana business now. We're talking about just the Gdola. He says, why? Because she was also for one time. When Reuven divorced her, she was also then, so she's also forever. If that's the case, she shouldn't need chalitza either. It's like Eshach Shalom Makom Mitzvah. Maybe that's the case. There's the only chalitza. The time you learn Mishum Rabbi Elazar Amar Cholet says you do have chalitza. Rabbi Elazar asks for a yibum, but not for chalitza. El Amar Aifa, Rabbi says Rabbi Elazar liyadan at times. Rabbi Aifa admits he says, I don't know his reasoning. If you need chalitza, so why can't you make yibum also? So Aifa says, I don't know Rabbi Elazar's reasoning. Okay. Abaya, but we'll see how other reasons are brought down for Rabbi Elazar. Amar Abaya, high time Rabbi, I'll give you the reason for Rabbi Elazar. Mesafkele, he's not sure. When she falls yibum, is it from the death? Is the death of the Reuven now causing her to go to yibum, which means now she is available because he died with no children, and that's when she becomes available to him. Oh, inasu and rishonim apilim. Or is it the original marriage? And the original marriage ended in divorce. And Grusha Sachav is also because it's a self-shalom mitzvah. So that's the question. If she's falling because of the death of Reuven, then she falls in front of him. There should be even. If it's the first Nisuin, so he's not sure. In other words, Rabbi Elazar says, do chalitza to be safe. I'm not sure if she needs the yibam or not. So I'm not sure. Do chalitza to be safe. It's a suffix. That's Abaya's reasoning in Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi says a different reason. Everybody agrees that it's the death of Reuben which causes her to fall yibam, and if it's a death, she should have yibam. Umiyu, here's his reason. Everybody is aware of the gerushin. There's a cold. There's rumors go out. Everybody heard about it. In other words, it's well known. When somebody's divorced, there's Adam, and it's spread throughout town. So everybody knows they got divorced. So everybody knows that as far as Reuven's wife Leah is concerned, Shimon, it's Grusha Sachav. He can't marry her. Because not everybody knew that he married her again. The second marriage was done maybe quietly. Nobody hears about it. And people will think that Shimon married Grusha Sachav. In other words, it's not technically Rabbi Elazar's motive to the Chacham. Of course, there is yibum in a case like that, but here's what we're afraid of. We're afraid that people heard that Reuven divorced her. People will not know that he took her back. And when people see Shimon marrying her, they'll say, oh, you can marry Grusha Sachav. And it's not the case. Vedakal became a Chazara. So it's got a Rabbah. Chazara, when it comes to me marrying her, keeping the Yasser decision, she's living with him, it's like Kala. Why do you say that? People only heard about the divorce, just the opposite. If he took her back and he's married to her, people know that they're living in the same house. So people would know that too. So the Gemara says, who says Milo Askin? And you could be speaking about a case. Can it not be talking about a case? The Hadra Ba'urta. He took her back at night. But Shachar B'Safar, he died the next morning. He was married to her for years, divorced her. And he said they got together one afternoon and said, let's get married. They got married at night. Next morning, he was dead. So people didn't know that they were married together. In other words, Rava says the reason Rabbi Elazar is because it's we don't want a tekola to come out. We don't want a bad thing to come out of this story because people know that they were divorced and they weren't sure. They didn't know that he had remarried her, and because of that, we don't want a mishap or a calamity to come out of this that people will think, oh, you can marry your Grusha Sachav. People that they were divorced, people know that they were remarried, and because of that, he's worried. So we have now two reasons. We have Abaya's reasoning. Aifa didn't reasoning fell off. Abaya said, Rabbi Elazar's reasoning, not sure, is it Misma Pelas or Nisun Rishonim? Rava says the reason is because people will think that they were divorced and never remarried, and people will think that you can marry your brother's divorced wife. Rav Ashi Amar Hainatam Rav Lazar. Rav Ashi gives the final reason, which seems to be the more accepted reason. Lazar, the Gazer Hani Mishum Yisam Chayav. You're right. Rav Lazar would agree with the Tanakama also that technically, where Reuben was married to Leah, divorced her and remarried her, and then he died with no children, Shimon could perform Yibam. Whether she was a Gdola or whether she was a Ktana. The concern is, in the case where Leah was originally Ktana and her father married her off, which is a Kedushin marriage d'oraisa, and then the father accepted her get, so it was a get in d'oraisa also, and then she remarried him, and it's only Kedusha Ktana is only Yisoma is only Kedusha Rabbanan, because the father no longer has rishus over it. And in that case, everybody's moda that you can't do Yibam. If Reuben dies now, you can't do Yibam because she's really Grusha Sachiv, and the marriage is only a marriage Rabbanan. So Rabbi Lazar says he goes to the first cases because of the last case, just because of the last case where Leah was first married by her father, the marriage d'oraisa, and then the second marriage was marriage Rabbanan. There, everybody agrees that if Reuben dies now, Shimon cannot perform Yibam because it's Grusha Sachiv. So he goes in the first cases also. Rashi Amar in the Gemara. Hanutam the Rabbi Lazar goes Hani Mishum Yisam Chaya Avich Zira. It's that way. That's the reason. Midiktani Sefer, the Sefer says, this case, the Sefer in the Mishnah says, Tana Shisia Avia B'Naskarsha. If her father married off and accepted her divorce, she's like Yisam Chayav. She's like an orphan in the lifetime of her father, because her father no longer has wishes to marry her off. And he took her back. What's the chiddush in that? It's obvious. Pshita. It's pshita. It's obvious she's Grusha Sachiv, and the marriage is not a marriage. Elalav. That the reason it's brought down is to tell me that the reason why Rav Lezer says in the first two cases he asers yibam is because of this last case. He's gozer because of the last case. Shema mina. Tanya kavas Rav Ashi. A proof from a brayso is Rav Ashi. Manu chacham Rav Lezer b'ktana shisi avia. Chamer moda to Rav Lezer in a case where, this case of a ktana whose father married her off and divorced her and accepted her divorce on his garsha. Because here Bryce explains, because the gerushin is a proper gerushin, menatora, it's not a marriage menatora, and therefore she's grushach medoram shegirsha kshiktana v'chzira kshiktana. In other words, the fact that Rashi explains, the fact that he says modem chacham l'Rab Lezer in this last case shows you that Rab Lezer's reasoning in the first two cases is because of this last case. And then he goes on to explain when Leah was originally divorced, when she was a ktana, v'chzir kshiktana, and he took her back when she was a ktana, so the second marriage was only marriage rabbanan. Let's say he divorced her when she was a ktana. Her father accepted kedushin, so she was married Torah and got divorced, and then he took her back when she was bat mitzvah already. That's a marriage d'oraisa. Inami, right? Inami achzir kshiktana. He took her back when she was a ktana. The Gidla Etzlo, and she grew up with him, and she stayed with him until she was bat mitzvah. We're going to talk in Amid Beis that you have to have bia there, or is it just bat mitzvah makes her married? Umeis, chaletz omes yebemis. There, the rabbis say you can do either chalitza or yibam, because in that case, the second marriage was a marriage d'oraisa, because she was married to him after she was bat mitzvah. So that's a regular case where Reuben divorced his wife, took her back, died. Then there would be yibam with Shimon, because it was the second marriage was also a marriage d'oraisa. Lezer says no. Even in those cases, like the first case of the Mishnah, you do chalitza, you don't do yibam, again, because he's gozer those cases because of the case of Yisam Chayav. What happens if there was a tzara? There was a co-wife. In this case, we're talking about where Reuven divorced his wife, took her back, right? And right, the was what would you say over there? According to Rabbi Lezer. Rabbi Lezer says that when you took her back and now Reuven died, Shimon should only do chalitza, shouldn't do yibam, because we're worried about it. What happens if she had a tzara? If there was a co-wife, what would Rabbi Lezer say there? Can Shimon perform yibam on the co-wife? Would she be forbidden? Amalei, he goof exera. According to Rabbi Lezer, the reason why you can't marry Leah herself, Shimon cannot marry Leah, is because exera, because of Yisam Chayav. We're going to go up and make another gzeira for the tzara. Why should the tzara be forbidden? If Reuben had another wife, she wasn't related to this wife. She was just a co-wife of Leah. So why can't Shimon perform yibam on her? I have a time Rabbi Lezer Omer hivit sarasa choletzes. Rabbi Lezer says no, both her and the co-wife are choletzes. What do you mean her and the co-wife? You don't give chalitza to two co-wives. Elav ohiyot sarasa means either her or the tzar gets chalitza. So what do you see? It's mashma that the co-wife also only gets chalitza. So he had to explain it anyway. It didn't make sense. The Bryce says he vitzarasa chaletzes. It doesn't mean he vitzarasa. So you said it means he otzarasa. I could also explain it this way. You could explain it this way. Choletz, he choletza. She only gets chalitza gzeira because of Yisam Chayav. So rasa o choletza misivav. Tzara can either do either chalitza or yibum. So in that case, Shimon can either do yibum on the co-wife if there was a co-wife, but on the woman herself, Leah, only do chalitza, don't do yibum because we're afraid. It goes because of the case of Yisam Chayav, where the first marriage is a marriage of Raisa, the second one she's only Drabanan, so she's divorced Minat Torah, and she's only married Drabanan. In that case, there can't be any yibum. Says the Mishnah Shneach and Nesun Shtei Achayos Kanos. What happens if Reuben and Shimon are married to two sisters? Reuben and Shimon, two brothers, married to two sisters. The two sisters are both 8, 9 years old, married off by their mother, not a Kedushin D'Oraisa. Umeis Bala Shalach, man, Reuven died. And what happens now? So Teitzei Mishum Chosisha, very simple. Whatever marriage there is for both. Tomorrow's daf we'll talk about when one marriage is stronger than the other. One was a Ktana, one's a Chareshes, one's a girl who's deaf and dumb. But here they're both the same. They're two marriages Rabbanan. So whatever strength there is in one, there's strength in the other. So if Reuben dies, his wife doesn't make even with Shimon because Shimon's already married to her sister, even though it's marriage Rabbanan, they're both marriage Rabbanan. So you have to look at the Gra takes out the words but in any case, even if you have it, there's like a comma there or a semicolon after chen. The same thing with two girls who are deaf and dumb, meaning they are mentally impaired. If they're mentally impaired, the same thing applies. If one of his husband died, the one whose husband died, she doesn't perform Yibum or Chalitza because her sister is married to the Yava. Fine. What about, here's the complicated case. Doluk Tana. Reuben's married to Leah. Leah is 20 years old. And Shimon, the brother, is married to Rachel, who's 8. And there's only marriage to Rabbanan. So again, the father is out of the picture. The father didn't marry off. The father married off. It would be Kedushin D'Oraisa even on the 8-year-old. We're talking about the Gdol. Leah is 20. Rachel is 8. Right? So Gdol Tana, Meis Bala Tana, now Shimon died. Shimon's married to the 8-year-old. What happens to the 8-year-old girl? Very simple. Very simple. What is she supposed to do? There's only two brothers here, right? Reuben and Shimon, married to Leah and Rachel. Leah is 20. Rachel is 8. Now Shimon dies. So what's supposed to happen? His wife, Rachel, should marry Reuben, but she can't marry Reuben because Reuben's married to her sister. That's it. So they say, the sister, you can't marry your sister's husband. So Chosisha is one of the 15. You saw him back on Daf Beis, right? One of the 15 Erebus. So she's parted from Yibum and Chalitza. Very simple, no problem. Okay. What about the other way around? Here's the complicated case. Meis Baal Shadol. What happens if Reuben died? Now here's the problem. Shimon's married to Rachel, her sister, but it's only a marriage to Rabbanan. And now he has what's called a Zika Minat Torah, because Reuben, his brother, was married to Leah, who's 20. Reuben and Shimon are both in their 30s. No problem. They're both in their 20s or 30s. They're fine. But now that Reuven died, and what do you do with his wife? On the one hand, Shimon has an obligation to marry her, give her Yibum or Chalitza because they're Zika. On the other hand, he's married to her sister, but it's only marriage to Rabbanan. So how do you get out of this mess? 3 opinions. Rabbi Lezer Omer, Rabbi Lezer says, or Rabbi Lezer ben Shamua, Omer Malamidin esaktana shetamoin bo. You encourage Shimon's wife to get mian on Shimon. Why? Because the marriage is only marriage to Rabbanan. There's a Zika Minat Torah. So encourage her to make mian. Mian, remember, annuls the marriage, so it never took place. They were never married. She can marry a Kohen now, right? Marriage is annulled. You teach Rachel to make mian, and then what happens? Shimon is free to marry Leah, who's his sister-in-law, his deceased brother's wife, and there's a Zika D'Oraisa there because she was 20 years old, and it was a proper marriage to Reuben. So you teach the Ketana Rachel to make mian, and then Shimon can perform proper yibum. Like Malil Omer, You don't do that. In me and Amir, Rashi explains how it's Ein Zika. Back in Daf Chesed and Beis, Rashi said that what does it mean by Ein Zika? There is a Zika, but what does it mean Ein Zika or Yesh Zika? So Rashi said over there means Zika ve Kitsas Kedushin, right? It's like a partial Kedushin. But if you hold Ein Zika, it's not really like a marriage. So he says, you know what? Listen. If she makes me in, she could make me. If she makes me in, fine. You don't encourage her. In love, I'll wait till she's 12 years old. Then she'll let him leave because of Chosish. The Gemara is going to debate when she's 12 years old. Does she also have to cohabit with him, have bia with him, or is it automatic? And we'll talk about that. But that's Gamliel's opinion. Gamliel says you don't encourage her to do me, and if she does me in, fine. If not, wait till she's 12. Then her marriage to Shimon is a marriage d'oraisa, and then automatically Leah is free to marry the shuk because she's a chosisha. Rabbi Shua, no, we're stuck here. Rabbi Shua holds of Zika. There is Zika here. So the Zika that exists now between Leah, the widow of Reuven, and Shimon, that Zika is Minatorah. That prevents Shimon from staying married to her sister, his current wife, Midrabanan. Woe unto his wife and woe unto his brother's wife. He's got to give his wife a get, meaning Shimon now has to divorce her. Forget about me. If she makes me in, fine. But if she doesn't make me in, you have to divorce. He can't stay with her. Me in means like, if she has me in, fine. If she doesn't. No, but he says, no, you got to divorce her. He can't stay married anymore to Rachel because there's a Zika Min Torah on her sister. So it's so his wife now, his current wife, Midrabanan, is a Chotzku Kaso. Can't marry her. Now he has to get. Why does he have to? Why can't he give Yibam to his sister? Because now that he's divorced his wife Rachel, so her sister is as a Chos Grushaso, right? She's a sister Grushaso. She's also also him. So therefore you give her chalitza, right? They say El Teisa beget Zula to Sam Shema Chos Grusha. So it's your sister's wife. His sister's wife you can't marry. So therefore you're right. Right, your sister, she is your sister's wife. You can't marry her, and therefore give her chalitza. So three opinions of it. Rav Lezer says you encourage Rachel to make mian, and then he marries Leah. Gamliel says yes, and no. Wait till she's 12, and then Leah will go out automatically. Or Rabbi Shua says no, you got to divorce your wife, and once you divorce your wife, you can't marry her sister, so you have to give her chalitza.
Why you have to give her like? Why not just do chalitza? Why you need to give her a get? Why you need to give the katana a get? Just do chalitza to the gedola and be finished with it.
Good. So then his wife is a chos chalutzaso. Can't stay married to your a chos chalutzaso is an isur rabbanan, just like a chos grushaso. Either way, you're stuck. That's what he says. Oilo alzeh. Either way, you got to get rid of your wife. She sees a divorce. You can't marry her sister now. You give her chalitza. Right, and then you can't marry her. You can't marry Leah because you divorced your wife, and you can't do chalitza. You just want to give chalitza to Leah. If you give chalitza to Leah, then your wife is still a chos chalutzaso, so you can't marry to either one of them. Now, so according to the first opinion, Rabbi Lezer ben Shamua, the Tanakh who said Malamed Asaktana, you teach her to give again. Are you allowed to do that? We'll see. Are you allowed to encourage her to do mian? Vatanu or kapara? Of course, it's like a person should cleave to three things. Stay close. Cling to these three things. And a person should always stay away from three things. What are the three things you should cling to? Should always do chalitza. Better do chalitza and yimim, as we'll see. We discussed that bismanazeh. Shalom, always try to bring peace between people. And also make sure you don't stay with any nadarim. If you have a neder, make sure you go to the rabbi. Cling to those three things. And stay away from three things. What are the three things you should say from mina mian? We'll see why. Mina pikdonos, don't accept pikdonos for other people. Don't hold other people's money or items. Umina arvonos, and don't be a guarantor. Well, don't we know that? Umina arvonos, and stay away from being a guarantor for somebody's loan. So the point, we'll see why, but you see, you're not supposed to do mumio. So why would you encourage her? The answer is, Rav Lezer would say, mian the mitzvah shiny. Over here, according to Rav Lezer, encourage Rachel to do mian so that you can perform yibam on Leah. So when mian, which the point of the mian here is to perform a mitzvah of yibam, is different. But normally you should stay away from mian. What's the reason for these different halach, for these things that you should cling to or stay away from? Gufa. A person should cling to three things. The first thing is chalitza. Why? Kabashol, like Kabashol, the Tanya Kabashol, we had this before. If a person takes his wife, is miyavam a woman for beauty. In other words, he's not doing it l'shem shamayim. He's doing it because he likes her. L'shem ishus, l'shem davar, either because of her beauty or because he loves her or for other reasons, maybe for her money. Kilu pageh be'eretz, as if he is marrying a prohibited sexual union. And the children that the union from that produce children are like mamzerim, according to Rishon. You don't do that's why we don't do even today, because we're afraid people are not going to have the right intention. So that's why number one, you should stay with chalitza, don't like even that's the first thing. Ba'aval shalom, a person should cling with bringing peace. It says baka shalom v'arteu, seek peace and pursue it. Many times it's running away. Yamar abavu asi radifa difa. There's a Gzeira Shavir. It says there, Ksiv Acha B'Keshem V'Arteu. Ksiv Hasim, when it says, Rodef Tzedakah B'Chesed, it says in Mishlei, a person who pursues a charity and kindness, Yimsa will find Chaim, he will find life, tzedakah, prosperity, and honor. In other words, it shows you that these are good things. If you pursue Shalom, you will result in good things. So that's the second thing you should cling to. The third thing you should cling to is Afaras Darim. Rav Nassan, the time of Rav Nassan Omer, Hanoder, if you make a netter, Kilu Banabam, it's as if you built an altar at a time when you're not allowed to build altars. Like today, you can't build altars. Once the Beis Mikdash was permanent, you can't build private altars. So if you make a neder, it's like you perform one sin. Hamakaimo, if you stay with a neder and try to fulfill it, I kept my word, that's also no good. Kilu Kavakarbon, it's like you did a double sin. Not only did you build an altar, but you brought a carbon on. In other words, you might say, well, if I fulfilled my word, no, it's better not to fulfill the word, better not to get rid of the netter entirely, and therefore go to a rabbi and let him be mater netter. Those are the three things you should stay to. And stay away from three things. What are they? Mina meyunin. Stay away from mian. Why? Isn't mian a good thing? If she wants to walk away, let her walk. Okay. We're afraid that you encourage her to do mian. Later on, she'll regret it and say, I didn't really mean it. You just talked me into it. And if she didn't mean it, means she really still married to the guy. So be careful with mian. Stay away from that. Mina bakdona, stay away from accepting other people's deposits in your house. The barmasa, somebody lives in your town, the baisik, he dummy. He's always going to come to visit your house. Can you hold this silver for me? He'll come and he'll come to check on it all the time. He's in your town. Let me check on my item there. He's going to be in your house. Maybe you'll steal the item, take it back, or steal something else and then claim it again. Better not to hold other people's stuff. Let them put it at the bank. Mina ravam, stay away from being a guarantee, from being a surety for somebody. According to one pshat, Shaltzion was a place where they would always go after the guarantor before they would go after the debtor, right? The debtor signs he's going to owe the money, and then they have a guarantor. They go after the guarantor first. He's the one who's got the money. They go after him. Shaltzion, there's another pshat. Shaltzion, we'll see in a minute. The Amar Yitzchak might have said, the pasuk says in Mishlei, Ra Yarua Ki Arav Zar. Bad upon bad will happen to a person who is responsible for a stranger. What does it mean? Several things. Number one is if you're a guarantor for a stranger, it's like you're a makabel gerim. It's not a good idea to you don't encourage people to become gerim. We'll see why. Well, the arvish al and for people who guarantee things when they come after the guarantor. Well, the kiyatz and a person who rivets himself to advar halacha. What does it mean there? What's wrong with that? With clinging to advar halacha? We'll see what that means. Makabel gerim, Yisrael, kesapachas bor. Gerim are difficult for the Jews as much as a sore is on skin. Why? Because they still have their old ways, and you might learn from them. So you got to be careful with gerim. That's what Rav Chelbo said. So number one, he said, don't be a guarantor for a czar, for a stranger, for a ger, because unless you know that he really means l'shem shamayim and he's going to observe the rules. Arve shilatzon da'avde shalaf dots. What they means here, according to this chat, the shaltzin is not the name of the place, but it's shlaf dots. It's like an abbreviation for shlaf dots, meaning he pulls out the lova from responsibility, pulls him away, and he puts himself close. He thrusts himself on the guarantor. So what's wrong with that? Riveting, pushing yourself, slapping yourself on Dvar Lachem. The time Rabbi Yossi Omer, and these are all bad things, right? We say these are all bad things, meaning it's bad to do miyun, as we said before, because maybe she'll regret it. It's bad to take a pikadon for somebody because they might take it back from you without you realizing they're going to hang around your house. And now we're talking about being a guarantor because they're going to come after you. But the brisa, the brisa that talked about that, Rav Yitzchak said that it's not only for people who are going to be taking a pikadon for somebody, but even people who stick to it dvar halacha. Well, what's wrong with that? A person says, I don't have Torah, he doesn't have Torah. Well, that's obvious pshita. He says, I don't have Torah, of course he doesn't have Torah. If a person says, I only have Torah, I don't actually fulfill, I just learn. I don't actually fulfill the mitzvahs. Eino el Torah. So Nami Pshita. If he only has Torah, he only has Torah. He doesn't have Maisim Tovim or whatever Chesed. El Dafil Torah means this. If all he has is Torah and he doesn't do fulfillment, if he only does Torah, he learns, but he doesn't fulfill, he doesn't even have Torah. My time, or Papa, we say, whoever does or performs, acts the Torah, performs the Torah, observes the Torah in act and in deed. So Yeshna B'Mida, then his learning is also learning. If he doesn't perform, his learning is also no learning. That's the pshat over here. That's what it means that if a person sticks himself only to learning, he only learns and he doesn't do it, it's like he didn't learn. Torah means like all he has is Torah, he only has his Torah. It means this. Means if all he does is learn and he doesn't perform, so isn't that obvious? No. I might think this. He teaches other people Torah. He learns Torah and he teaches other people Torah. And they perform the mitzvahs. They act it out. I might think he also gets schar, even though he doesn't perform, but he teaches others and they perform, so he should get schar for that too. Kamashma, no. If he doesn't perform himself, he only gets schar for learning, not for actually doing. We're speaking about this. Person who sticks to the halacha, a judge. A case came before a judge, and he's not sure what the result, how he should paskin. But Gomer halacha, and he learned some halacha medami milsa. He's not sure what the halacha should be, but he says, you know what, this is similar to another case, and he compares it to that case, and instead of consulting with his rabbi, Islay Rabban, he has a rabbi, but he doesn't ask him. In other words, he just says, well, this is similar to another case, and I'll judge according to that without asking higher authorities. You're a person should always, a judge should always see himself as if there's a sword between his thighs, and he's Gehenna is right below him, and as he should be fearful and shaking as he judges a case, and he should consult the books and consult his teachers and not just guess or compare one case to another. Shenemer says, Shlomo's bed. Rashi says this refers to the Beis Hamikdash, where the Sanhedrin was. Tosafos says that then it should say not Shishim Yibar, which is be 70 or 71. He says it's referring to the 600,000 Jews, but in any case, it refers to Shlomo's his backing, right? His what he rested on. He named Tosafos Shlomo Shishim Yibar himself the 60 mighty people who are around him. He Gibar Israel from among the heroes of Israel. Every man with his sword from the fear of the night. It's the fear of Gehenna, which is like nighttime. In other words, a person when he's a judge, what it means to say is if he only has Torah and he doesn't just judge on what he has, that he's going to have a shortfall. Person should learn Torah, teach Torah to others, perform the mitzvah himself. If all he has is what he taught and he doesn't perform, that's all he has. Or in this case, another pshat could be that if that it's bad. Again, the pasuk said, bad will come upon bad for a person who just stays with what he learned without consulting others and without trying to find the proper halacha, and he could fall into Gehenna. So we said the first opinion, we said Rabbi Elazar says teach you to do mian, even though normally we said it's mian is a bad thing. That's what we said over here because she might regret it later on. But here to perform the mitzvah is different. Leal says no, if she does mian, fine, and if not, wait till she gets if not, let her wait. What do we do over here? We have this Yavama, Leah, who's 20 years old. She's a widow now. And what should he do? He's married to Shimon's married to her 8-year-old sister. So he says, we don't encourage her to do mian. As we said, mian isn't necessarily a good idea. If he wants to if she does mian, fine. If not, let her wait till she's 12. Once she's 12, it's a full marriage. Shimon's fully married to her. So then he can't marry Leah because it's achos ishto. And then she goes out without yibum or chalitza. Okay, so here's the question. This is a mian. And if not, wait till she gets to be a gdola. So what does that mean? So boy mine Rab Lazar Mirav. Rab Lazar asked Rav, what's the pshat Ramilio? My time Ramilio. Mishum diksava kedusha tana mitlatolu. Doesn't mean that the kedusha tana, she's 8-9 years old, and it's only marriage to Rabbanim. And her marriage, she gave her a ring and her kedushously and all that. Is it suspended? The chigad lagad b'dah. It's suspended until she's 12 to see what happens. And when she grows up with him alfagav delobol, even though he didn't do bia. When she's bat mitzvah, she has now pubic hair, and she has simonim and shanim. She's fully bat mitzvah. Is she now fully married to him based on the original marriage? He gave her a ring when she was 8 years old, right? Mukadeshesli, the tabasu. She had no power to do it, so it's only drabanan. But now when she's 12 years old, it's a glory milsulam afreya that it was a good marriage, and he's marrying her based on that. Even though there's no bia, that's still considered good enough. And Rashi explains, the first kedushin tells us the zika lav klum. In other words, once she's 12 years old, the original marriage that he gave her the ring takes place now. Effectively, didn't take place then; it takes place now. But retroactively, it turns out that since that marriage was good, there was never any zika. Leah was always a chos ishto. No, even though there's a zika to Leah, let's say Shimon wasn't married to her sister. Let's say Shimon was single. Reuben died with no children. He left a 20-year-old wife. So Shimon's supposed to marry Leah. But let's say he goes now and he marries Rachel. He marries her sister. That works. Maybe that's what he owes. Well, I married her. I'm married now to Shimon's married now to Rachel. So Yavama is pater. The sister Leah is pater from Yibam. But that only works if he marries her now. In other words, you need the bia to take place now. So when she's 12 years old, when this katana becomes 12 years old, is it automatic? The first marriage that he gave her a ring at 5 years ago, whatever. Now affects the yibum, now affects the marriage now, that makes it happen now, so that Lemafreya, she was always married to him. She wasn't really married to him. If she was Mazana when she was 10, was not only is she not responsible, but the kid wouldn't be a mamzer because she wasn't really married to him. But now that marriage now becomes effective right now. Now that original kedushin is tofes now. Is that what you say? You say no, or you say no. No, the marriage takes place now only if he marries her now. If he has bia with her now, he has to actually. He has to consummate the marriage again now when she's 12 for it to be effective. That means so that's the question. When does it place? When he says, Rabbi says, well, wait till she's 12. And then what? Automatically, when she's 12, now it's a marriage to Raisa and Leah is free to marry. She's free to go. Or do you say, no, only if when she turns 12, Shimon consummates with her again, only then does the Yavama go out. So Rav answered, you can if Shimon marries, Shimon was single and married now the sister of his Yavama, the girl of the Shemeres Yavam, she's Pati Bal Aini Lo Bolo. That's Rav said. Rav Sheshis. Rav Sheshis says this many times in Shas. I think Rav was half asleep when he said this. He missed the boat. When he was falling asleep, he said this. The Tanya we learn a Makadosh Sektana, Kidusha, if you Makadosh a girl who's 8 years old, Kidusha Tluyin, it's suspended. It's suspended because you're not sure what's going to happen. My Tluyin, Lav Ki Gadla, Gadli Bada, doesn't mean suspended. When she's 12, it takes effect. Afagav the law, even though there's no bia. Amalei Rav Meir Shapiro, no. Middle doesn't mean suspended and it's automatically going to take place at 12 years old. It's suspended. B'kaima ibal any lo bolo. If he consummates with her, then it's a bia. If not, not. In other words, he's saying that you have to, in order for the marriage to be a marriage, then for the marriage Rabbanan that Shimon has with Rachel to turn into marriage Raisa, he actually has to cohabit with her. He has to have bia with her when she's 12. The Amra, why is it suspended? So what's the sanction suspended? The Amra, because she says, the girl can always say, listen, I'm 8, 9, 10 years old right now. On the one hand, he has something over me because he can always divorce me at any time. But I also have something over him. If I want to, I can walk away until I'm 12 years old, until I have years and simonim, I can walk away. True, she can't perform, but Tosfos points out she can't perform mian anymore once she has shtei saros. Even a drabanan midaraisa, though, she's not married to the guy. And she's not married Torah until he performs Yibam. So it's more of a Savravi Bal Ain Ilo Balo. So we're saying now Rav holds that this young girl who was only a marriage Rabbanan, and now she marries the guy Torah, it's only a marriage when? If he consummates with her. Ilo Balo, I wait, but we learn Tanishla Mian, a young girl who didn't make Mian. Big Dila. She became 12 years old now with Simonim and years. Shashon with Simonim. Now she married somebody else. What's the deal? We learned the other day. What do we say? The other day? That if a girl is 8, 9 years old and she doesn't make miyun, she just marries somebody else. She's 9 years old and she marries somebody else. That's miyun, right? She means she's refusing the first guy. No, but here what happened was she became a gdola. She didn't make miyun. Big dealer. Now she's 12. She can't make miyun anymore. She married somebody else. What's the deal? Rav Amar and she doesn't need to get from the second guy. It's usher. She doesn't need to get from the second guy. Why? Because the first marriage she was married. The first guy when she was 12 years old. She needs to get from the second guy. The first marriage was never consummated. My love at the top of Kufiyad. My love, the low bars. And speaking where there was no bia, and that shows you that Rav would hold. Rav says, "Ain sricha get mishen." It's fine, even though there was no bia when she was 12 years old. Still, she's married to the first guy, and that's why she doesn't need to get from the second guy. He says, "Low, the ball." It's speaking about she was 12, Dila, she became 12, and she had bia with the first guy. Then she doesn't need to get from the second guy. My love, the ball. So Gemara, eat the ball. My time to Shmuel. If she had bia with the first guy, the first husband, right, that she was with for all those years, from 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and she had bia with the first guy now, so she's certainly married to the first guy. So why would Shmuel say you need to get from the second guy? It was done b'isur. She was a married woman, and why would she need to get from my time to Shmuel? Shmuel holds when you did bia with based on the kedushin rishonim, and the first kedushin was a kedushin rabbanon. That's what he means. That when you do bia, you're not thinking for the future. You're thinking of just continuing what was before. So he didn't have in mind that he's making kedushin now. All he had in mind was whatever was before, like a kedushin rabbanon. He didn't really have in mind to marry her with this. So according to what we're saying now, when she's 12 years old, you have to have bia again. If you didn't have bia again, sure, she can't make miyun anymore, but he's not really married to her either. He's not really married Torah. He's not married to her. But Rabbanan, okay, there's a marriage Rabbanan, calls money didn't do bia, but there's no marriage Torah. So Rav says, so we're saying now you have to have bia again. And if you had bia again, so Rav says, then and she married somebody else, then it's meaningless. Shmuel says no. The bia that she does again, the bia that he does now wasn't l'shem kedushin. When you have bia now, you have to do l'shem kedushin. If your bia that you do now stam, that's based on the original intent of a kedushin rabbanon. It's not a kedushin d'oraisa over here. So Shmuel says you need to get from the second one. Tzricha get misheni. Whereas Rav says you don't need to get from the second guy because once you made bia now, once she's 12 years old, that is with the intent. That's automatically with the intent that of marrying her now. And therefore, you don't need to get from the second guy. When he had bia now when she's 12, he knew. Oh, when I was 8, 9 years old, that was just playing around. That was a kedushin rabbanan. When he married her now, you're 12 years old. That's a shame kedushin. Where Shmuel said no, he's not thinking that way. He's thinking I'm just continuing what I had before. Therefore, it's not. Tomorrow's Gemara is going to continue this discussion about when you consummate a marriage, is it done al das the original intent or with the new intent now to marry her? Tomorrow's daf will be on the podcast Mishem, and on Sunday we'll pick it up from the top of Kufiyat Aleph. Maybe we'll start at the bottom of Kufiyat Amid Beis. It's one discussion over there, and as I said before, on Sunday and Monday we will continue from the same format on Zoom only. Have a good Shabbos, everybody.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.